Hello and welcome back. I have returned from Disney World, I have returned to the real world, and all the magic is gone. Or perhaps just a door away. Coraline has been one of my favorite movies for a long time. It's got it all. A great story written by Neil Gaiman, adapted by Henry Selick, fantastic designs for the characters and the world, all in stop motion, using revolutionary techniques of the time. I had seen the movie first and seen it many times. Having always been told that the book was creepier, I was hesitant to consume it. Then curiosity finally got the better of me, and while working on this piece, as well as some time spent at my day job, I listened to the audiobook of Coraline. And I was surprised at many things. The first is that I didn't find the book any creepier. Perhaps it's because I was already expecting something much worse and was braced for more. Perhaps I've become so accustomed to Coraline's movie creepiness that I was ready for the book. Or perhaps I've consumed so much horror content at this point that nothing phases me. Who knows? That being said, the book and movie are quite similar. Being such a visual person, I do find the movie more compelling, as they emphasized the visual differences between the real world and the other world, and played a lot more with those theatrical embellishments. The book, however, takes a different route, noting that the two worlds are meant to be more similar. I suppose so it's harder for Coraline to notice that anything is off. There was one place where the book truly thrived, and the movie fell flat. And that was a scene that was omitted entirely from the movie, the Wasp Hill chapter. I'm going to spoil it just a bit because there's no point in talking about it without explaining what I mean. It comes at a pivotal point where Coraline is faced with a very challenging decision. She thinks back to a time where her dad took her to explore the old junkyard near where they used to live. They were walking along and all of a sudden her dad yells to her to run. She does, and when her dad catches up to her, he's covered in wasp stings. They count them later, and it was around 50, if I remember. They had accidentally upset a wasp nest, and Coraline's dad stayed so they would attack him and not go after Coraline. She told him that was brave, and he said it wasn't. He'd lost his glasses during all the chaos, and he'd have to go back and retrieve them. Knowing the danger, knowing what he'd face, and still doing it. That, he said, was brave. It's such a wonderful scene, and it means so much. It speaks volumes to Coraline's character, not only why she's brave and how she learned to face such terrible obstacles, but also why her parents mean so much to her. I felt so cheated out of that scene once I'd finally heard it. It truly belongs in the movie somehow. It felt as though her real parents in the movie were so disconnected from her and so dreary. They'd almost cut the shopping scene where she asks for the striped gloves, but they kept it as a way to emphasize the lost dynamic between her and her mom. She has little reason to save her parents other than they're her parents. And I'm so sad that I am only now hearing of the wasp scene to explain it all. You might be asking, why not do a drawing of that? Well, as I said before, I was doing this drawing at the time I was listening to the book, so I will have to save that illustration for another time. This one was simply a celebration of two very iconic pieces of the movie, the doll and the stretching hallway between the worlds. The movie is so colorful and has so many wonderful things to choose from, but I chose these as they are the beginnings. The movie starts with the other mother making the doll and setting it loose into the real world. Then Coraline's adventure really gets going as she crawls through the tunnel into the other worlds, where everything is bigger and brighter. I was originally just going to do the doll, but the stretching hallway was irresistible to include as the background. This one was pretty fun to work on because it was still simple enough that it was well within my comfort zone, but I got to watch Coraline play with colors and admire the little doll they'd made there at Leica for Coraline to swing around. I wish I'd done more to play with this story. As I'm looking and thinking about it now, there are so many moments in Coraline to choose from, even just knowing about the movie and not the wasp scene. This is one that does not make sense out of context. Anyone who doesn't already know of Coraline will not know what this is or why it looks this way. I like being able to make things and discuss them in a way that makes sense to anyone, not just those already in the know. So it's frustrating to know that this falls flat in that regard. I do love how that background turned out though. Going in, I really didn't think I'd be able to make something that looked like that tunnel, but I think it came out pretty well, so I'm happy with that. I could go on about Coraline for quite some time, but I will leave it there for now. If you haven't seen the movie, but are watching this just to see my process anyway, I highly recommend it. If you've not consumed the book, I also recommend that, as it is slightly different and you can get the full wasp scene for your own enjoyment. Until next time, I hope you have many wonderful adventures. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.